Welcome everyone today. Oh, let me get back to presentation mode. There we go. Welcome everyone today to how 3PLs can use tech to improve visibility for their team and their customers. I'm glad today to be joined here with Lucien from Shippeo, and we have a really exciting webinar here for you today. Lucien, want to introduce yourself?
Hey Michel, thanks for having me today. So I'm Lucien Bess, I'm one of the co-founders and CEO of Shippeo, which is a tech visibility solution that we created in 2014.
Awesome. And I'm Vishal. I'm a product expert here at Front. I work on the marketing team, and I'm in charge of our webinars. And so this is a really exciting day for us. We're in Paris today. I came from the San Francisco office, and so usually we do this cross offices, but today we get a chance to meet in person for our chat. So quick overview of how today's session will work. As you have questions, please add them to the chat. At the end, we're going to have time for a Q&A. And then after this webinar, we're going to send you the recording. So feel free to ask your questions at any time. We'll save some time at the end, or if we want to, or if we have a chance, we'll also try to answer them throughout the webinar. So quick agenda for today. We'll start off with a quick introduction, and then we'll go into a product overview of Shippeo and Front, and then we'll talk about how 3PLs can use tech to improve visibility, the topic for today. And then, like I said, we'll save some time at the end for a Q&A.
Yeah, so the goals for today and what we want to focus on with Vishal is first the ways you can improve visibility for you and your customers. So we're gonna, of course, showcase a bit of our products, Front and Shippeo, and see how you can use these kind of products to improve visibility. Then we're gonna see how you can deliver more experience and operational excellence to your customers. And basically we'll see how much does it really cost you as a 3PL and not to have visibility for your teams and your customers. And last but not least, how to keep your team transparent and accountable by having more visibility.
Awesome, thanks. So as I mentioned, we'll go through a product overview real quickly to describe what is Front and what is Shippeo, and I'll start off with Front. So Front is the best email management software for third-party logistics companies, where you can easily manage high-stakes, high-volume email with Front's all-in-one communication hub. So we at Front, we work with tons of logistics companies, and a lot of the use cases are very similar from the needs that they have and the solutions that we're able to provide. One way that we help companies out is we ensure that every message is automatically routed to the right person or team, so you can spend less time triaging your inbox and more time on important work. So for example, here in this image, you'll see a VIP customer has emailed you. You'll see a tag that says new shipment request, and you'll see another tag that says urgent. The way this works is you could set up rules in Front where if an email comes in from your VIP customer, say it's IKEA, for example, you can create a specific rule for that, have that email tagged, and then say it doesn't get responded to within 15 minutes. You could even have another tag that says urgent. You can move those to a shared inbox. You could create this all automatically. And this is one of the main ways a lot of the logistics companies that we work with use Front. Front also has one thing. So one thing that we really, I think, strive for is being able to lower your email volume, being able to get to inbox zero, but more importantly, just being able to distinguish between your important emails and your less important emails. And so one way we help reduce email volume is we have something called internal comments. So as you can see in this example at the top, there is an email from Ryan Nelson, subject line urgent delivery. And Brandon here's tagging his teammate Claire to kind of message behind the scenes as opposed to forwarding this email or CCing this email to Claire. So if this email comes into Brandon doesn't have to necessarily forward it or anything. Once he tags Claire. Claire automatically gets access to this email. So you don't have multiple email threads, you just have one email thread, and then you can have this discussion, and you can actually even create a draft email. Either Brandon or Claire can do it, and you could collaborate pretty easily right there on the email and then ship it away. So this makes things a lot quicker. You don't have messy VCCs or CCs, and you could just basically easily loop in coworkers to get their input. And then we also have a pretty robust analytics platform. So a lot of the logistics companies that we work with, response time is critical. It's important for them to get back to prospects because oftentimes it's not necessarily your company versus your competitors. Your prospect might not really care for the difference, but more so just need an urgent request resolved. And so you can have analytics on response times. You can have analytics on actually reaction times. So in Front, as you saw in the previous example, Brandon can assign a message to Claire or tag Claire, and that's considered a reaction time. So so you know how quickly you're getting back, and then you could also specifically track responses, so you know how quickly you're actually emailing. You could do this to set and meet response time SLAs. So if you have an SLA where you need to get back to your customer within an hour, you can track these metrics, and so you know that you're meeting your SLAs, and you can actually create rules. So if 45 minutes have passed, your teammate gets notified, and so you're never missing your SLAs. This allows teams to project revenue based on email volume. A lot of the companies that we work with, the amount of email is equal to, they could actually project revenue based off of how much email they're getting. And so we'll often sometimes see the summer months where things slow down and emails slow down, and you can actually see this reflected in revenue. And then you could staff to meet business needs, and I think this is really a very important and crucial feature. As you can see in this example, you'll see busiest day, Wednesday, busiest time, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And so if you know that this is your busiest day and busiest time, you could staff appropriately and have extra people working on your team during this period. If Fridays are lower for you, you don't have to have as many people staffed. And then you could create custom reports. Every company that we work with has different metrics that they want to look at. And so because we're able to provide or collect all this data from your interactions and your conversations, you could export this and build your own reports. Awesome. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lucian and tell us what Shippeo is.
Yeah, so Shippeo is a visibility platform for the logistics industry. So the first goal of the solution is to collect real-time delivery information from basically any data source that can exist on the market, and basically surface information instantly on the platform of your choice. So we started initially with a mobile app, and then we expanded quickly to other modes of communication and ways of getting the information to market. So now basically, if you're a 3PL and you work with a lot of subcontractors, you don't have to worry about the system that is used by your subcontractors. It can be a truck telematics, which is basically the GPS device embedded into the truck. It can be a TMS system that is used by one of your subcontractors. It can be a TMS. It can be on other modes than just truck. It can be the data coming from a vessel. It can be the data coming from a parcel API. So basically, any source of information, we have the ability to connect to it, and then we just surface one source of information onto the same platform. So it basically works as a multi-plug. You have to take the idea of a multi-plug. You have hundreds of subcontractors using hundreds of different systems, and you just get one platform to connect them all. So that's the core value of the platform, is to aggregate data and surface the data onto the same platform. So that's the main value of the solution, is not worrying about what your subcontractors or your customers are using. The second thing is, once we have the data, so the first step is to get the data into our platform. Once we have the data, we basically nicely surface this information onto web platforms. So your team at a 3PL can use the solution to basically know when the truck's going to arrive to the facility or to the customers. So it works as a big screen that you have in an airport, for example. when you want to see that your flight is on time or delayed. You have your transport order, so each line is a transport order, and then you have the status of the delivery and the ETA, so red or green if the truck is late or in advance, or if the vessel is late or in advance. So it's basically really useful for customer support team or customer service team when they have an inquiry from a customer knowing where is my truck, and that's typically the question that is being asked hundreds of times at the 3PL, where is my truck, what is my truck? They just have to go on the platform, type the delivery number, and know exactly what is the status of the delivery and the exact ETA. So on top of that, we do machine learning analytics to know exactly when the truck is going to arrive, because it's quite difficult to know when a truck is going to arrive, because there is a lot of variables coming into the equation, when the driver is going to brake, how much time is going to take to load the truck, how much time is going to take to unload, etc., how many stops do you have in the truck. So we basically take all this internal and external data, and we compute that into an ETA to exactly give the right information to our customers. And the last part, of course, once we have the data, once we surface this information nicely onto the platform, is to warn the customer about the location of the delivery. So we have multiple ways of sharing the information externally. We can send SMS notifications, we can send email notification, we can build a dedicated customer portal for the 3PL. So let's say that you are a 3PL and you want to share the information externally to your customers about where is the delivery, exactly as what you can have on an e-commerce platform when you want to know where your parcel is. We do exactly the same for the logistics industry, so we can put in place a nice web portal that is branded with your logo, so you can put the information directly to the web portal or into a single link that you can share with an SMS to know where the truck is and what is the ETA of the delivery. And last but not least, and that's not in the slides for today, but it's another feature that we have, we do analytics as you do. So we have a nice reporting tool to know exactly what is your service level, what is your punctuality level, because you are challenged every day by your customers about the punctuality, about the SLA. So we have all the analytics into the same platform to exactly know what to do and how to get information.
Yeah, I think, and one thing that we mentioned in the webinar promotion is how the trends of B2C are coming into B2B, where, for example, when you're buying something on Amazon or any online retailer, you want to know exactly where it is, when it's going, and now you're getting so much information, so much data. I know basically exactly what time it's going to be online for me. And so those expectations have now come into B2B.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly the pitch that not our team, but the customers are telling us. I mean, each time we meet a new 3PL or we meet a new shipper, it's always the same story. Why can I not have the same level of visibility over my truck deliveries or my vessels deliveries? That's what I can have on an e-commerce website for 10 euros deliveries, and it's a complete nonsense not to be able to follow a truck in real time, but to be able to follow a parcel that costs just 10 euros.
Yeah.
And the value of getting the information on the logistics part is much higher than just getting the information on the B2C part. So that's really a key driver of our customers.
Yeah, you have more insight into like your T-shirt getting delivered than your actually like your logistics source.
Definitely.
Okay, so we'll get started now. That was a brief product overview, but now we want to go into some of the ways 3PLs can use tech to improve visibility.
Yeah, so the first thing is to understand why the lack of visibility is costing you, because a lot of 3PLs are coming to us saying, but why do I need visibility? Why is it not just a gadget? And why do I need this tool? And of course, there is a lot of explanations to that. And the first one that was briefly discussed before is because every B2B customer is now expecting this level of visibility. And basically, if you want to be a 3PL of choice and you want to be best in class in the service that you offer to your customers, you need to have technology, you need to have services, and not just to basically perform the delivery. Because the old 3PL will just basically perform the delivery, and the new 3PL using technology will offer new service around the delivery information, and that's super important because the 3PL and the logistics industry is quite commoditized. So if you want to differentiate from competition, you need to have visibility, you need to be able to offer to your customers the same level of visibility as what they can have on the B2C experience. So I would say that it's the #1 driver when a 3PL is making the decision to use a visibility solution is the experience for their customers. So that's really, really super important. That's an example of a 3PL we're working with, for example, in Europe, called Minimasters. They are receiving a lot of inquiries from their customers, they are receiving a lot of RFPs, where the customer are asking them for visibility. So they basically have to have this information for their customers. So they are already serving their B2C customers with a visibility platform, but for the B2B market, they have basically nothing. So they have to have this system.
How often would you say a 3PL comes to you looking for a visibility solution because their customer has requested it versus a 3PL looking for a visibility solution because they're just thinking ahead? Is it always a reactive thing, or how many 3PLs are actually proactive about this?
That's a good question. I mean, I see more and more 3PL being proactive.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of big and small, and it's not always big companies actually. There's a lot of small-sized companies or medium-sized companies that want to differentiate from competition.
Yeah.
So and it's usually a topic that is tackled at the CEO level of these companies. They want to differentiate, they want to invest in technology. So I would say that more and more 3PL are coming in a proactive mode. Of course, there is still a lot of 3PLs coming to us because their customer asked for visibility.
Yeah.
But if you wait for your customers to ask for it, it's already too late.
Yeah.
And it's already because one of your competitors would have done it before.
Yeah.
So you need to be proactive. You need to basically take a step ahead of competition and be in condition to win some deals and basically to grab the market. So, and technology will be the biggest key drivers. And a truck next to another truck, it's exactly the same thing. But a truck with visibility and technology next to another truck that doesn't have visibility or technology, it really makes a difference. So,
yeah.
The second thing is that, and that's probably something that is also heavily related to front, and we'll discuss that afterward with you, Richard, that there is a lot of visibility, 3PLs, suffering from the lack of productivity because of lack of visibility. What we see, and which is quite huge in our industry, is that 50% of the shippers are still using traditional methods to exchange information with the 3PLs. So we see a lot of phones, we still see a lot of fax. We see a lot of emails, of course, that are used in the bad way, exchange between 3PLs and shippers. So one thing is that shippers are not always very advanced, technologically speaking, with the tool that they use. So sometimes when they have an inquiry about the delivery, they would just call the 3PL saying, "What is my delivery?" And then there is a whole chain of information put into motion because the 3PL will call the subcontractor, and the subcontractor will call the driver, and finally the information will come back, and it's usually too late because the truck has arrived at the facility. So that's really the first thing. The second thing is that when we talk to our customers, to our 3PLs, the average is that an FTE will take up to 5 hours on his emails per week, basically answering information into other system or just answering their customer inquiries. So that's a lot of basically inefficient workload for them, and it can be solved with visibility. And the last thing is that all the exchange of information that could be automatized through EDI, through API, are not really a standard today in the industry. So overall, answering a customer costs a lot in this industry. The third thing is that today most of the litigations and additional costs that 3PL will suffer from are related to the lack of visibility. For example, one of the key issue or problem in the industry is the delay or the dwell times that you can have in the market, because when you arrive to a customer facility and that you are late, or even when you're on time, you are going to wait on the facility or the parking lot because the shipper is not well organized, or because you didn't warn before that you would be late. So you are going to suffer from the dwell time on the logistics facility, and that's per year billions of dollars or euros that are spent on logistics facility with trucks waiting because they couldn't warn the customer before. And another thing is that shippers are constantly challenging the 3PL on their punctuality rates, and you can have a high penalty as a 3PL if you are not basically on time. You don't have any tolerance. If you are late by 1 or 2 minutes at some retailers, you're going to be fined with a high cost. So that's also super important to have that in mind. Another thing is that, and that's basically common sense, but it's really important to stress it, you cannot improve your delivery performance as a 3PL if you don't know where to improve.
Yeah.
So I know, for example, that my customer is expecting 94% on-time delivery, but if I don't know where I stand today, I will never improve and I will never reach the expected level of service. So that's also a key topic that we see at some of our customers in 3PLs. And last but not least, and that's probably a really key topic on the commercial side for the 3PLs, that's a statistics coming from all of our customers, our shippers. Almost 90% of the transport tenders that will come in the next months or years, in 90% of these tenders, visibility will be a key criteria to select a preferred 3PL. So of course, you will always compare prices, and you will try to choose the cheapest 3PL, the one that is most aggressive on pricing, but it's not always about pricing, it's also about quality and level of quality. So let's say you have 2 3PL offering the same services at the same price. The one having visibility will be preferred to compare the one that will not have visibility. So that's also a key thing that you need to have in mind as a 3PL, is that if you want to win new market shares, if you want to convince new shippers, you need to have technology and you need to improve yourself. So that's a key.
What would you say, or how far are we from this is table stakes, this is like a must-have, right? Like, for example, right now, you're purchasing something from an online retailer and you don't have tracking, it's almost like it's bizarre.
It's basically what's happening with Amazon. I mean, the secret recipe of Amazon is a lot of cheap products on a marketplace and an amazing customer experience. And I'm going on Amazon not because I can find the best product, because I will have the best service. And because I know that from the time I will order my parcel, I will be able to track it. I will be able to know when it's going to arrive to my place. I will be able to select the delivery window. And that's exactly the same for the B2B. I mean, it's the same person that is ordering on Amazon that the one that is working in the logistics facility. So they all expect the same service level. So things what we call the Amazon effect internally exactly works the same in the B2B industry.
One thing that you mentioned, I think it was in the second slide, is that a lot of shippers are using like maybe older technologies or older tools or things like that. When we're onboarding a new customer to Front, we have actually a team dedicated to it, and we talk a lot about change management. I don't know if you use a similar phrase, but the idea of changing from Gmail, Outlook to Front, or their previous systems to Shippeo, right? Like, how big of an issue is that before they sign on? Like, I am assuming there's like worry about that, and then once you do onboard them, I feel like once we onboard customers at Front, it's almost like, wow, what was I even worried about? Like, this is super easy, but there's kind of this sort of like stress when you go from one to another. Is that something that you face?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first thing is that when they choose our solution, they know that they choose a solution to gain some time, so they are quite positive in the implementation, etc. But there is still a lot of change management to do. I mean, the key example is just to explain to the team that they will not basically answer the phone anymore, or they will just not pick up the phone anymore to call the subcontractor and to know where the truck is. They will have to log in on the web portal and just type the delivery number and check the information before. So they have to trust technology over the human interaction. So I'm not saying that they have to just erase all human interaction. Of course, they can still call their customers, and that's super important for customer retention and satisfaction, but they need to trust a bit more technology that what they are used to. So that's probably, at least when working with the 3PL, that's probably the biggest effort that we need to put in the change management part, is make sure that they trust technology, and that when they see an ETA on the platform or when they see a status, they don't just double check with the driver, because if they do that, it's going to basically erase off the value of the solution. So
That makes sense. And then I have another question. You also talked about like the risks, the legal risks, or the fines or penalties if you're late for delivery. You know, you could get a big fine, a hefty fine, right? And you said that's kind of like $1 billion annually. Companies are paying. How much of an issue is that when you have customers coming to you versus just the experience side of things? Is it like they want to provide a 3PLs want a better experience, or are they more worried about like the fees, or is it maybe both?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Once again, the key driver to get equipped with such a solution is customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
I mean, by far.
Yeah.
Because they want to have their customer happy, they want to gain some market share, so they know that they have to differentiate from technology. So that's definitely the key driver. And cherry on the cake, on top of that, you also have some benefits regarding like penalties, as you say, regarding productivity, regarding the way you work internally. So that's just on top of it. But the first part is really customer satisfaction. And coming back to penalties, it's not only just to avoid the penalty from the customers. It's also sometimes to make sure that your customers know that you are on time and not late. Yeah. So you can just reverse the relationship and say, I'm not going to pay the penalty because I have the way to prove that I was on time. Yeah. And I can ask you maybe for a penalty because you had me waiting at your facility.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It basically works in both senses.
Yeah.
And the 3PL can really like kind of reverse the relationship using this kind of visibility tools.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. Great. Yeah, I'm gonna go into the next section now. The way you work isn't working, and this is really much related to one of the last points that Lucian mentioned when we were going over the agenda about transparency, about accountability, and how that really relates to visibility. So here, as you can see, and I'm wondering, does this look familiar? Are you drowning in email? And this, when we're dealing with a lot of logistics companies, this is what they face day to day. Inbox overload, people wondering if somebody followed up with their other, with the customer or with the prospect, the customer prospect confused, somebody in this chat one, hello, is anyone there, right? Just lack of, I think there's two big aspects here. One, it's missed messages, and then the second one is double replying, right? And so when you have, if you're using distribution lists, if you're using Google Groups for quotes at, for sales at, support at, and you have multiple people on this thread receiving these emails, you're gonna have a folder or an inbox just with potentially thousands of emails a day. I think the average knowledge worker today is getting around 100 emails per day, but when you add a Google Groups to that, you're gonna basically double, triple, or even 10x that number. And I think the biggest issue there is not knowing if something's been replied to, and sometimes sending information twice that's not consistent. So you'll have one of your colleagues give one quote and another give another quote. And I think this is really slowing your business down, causing a lot of the issues in terms of the experience, again, back to the customer experience side of things, and really just wasting your employees' time.
It's really amazing because it reminded me something that I saw at one of our customers, 3PLs. I mean, sometimes you have an query about a delivery. Yeah. So you have a thread of email with the delivery number being the object of the email. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you would have like hundreds of emails in this thread because a lot of people are going to be involved. The email is going to be forwarded to someone else saying, what is the truck, what's going to happen, etc. And I saw that with one of my customers. They just show me all the threads that they have per day. Yeah. And they receive like almost thousands of emails because you can have like 15 late deliveries. And that's not a lot. You can say 15 deliveries late. Yeah. But 15 times 100 email. Yeah. That's thousands of emails. So that's just crazy.
Yeah, no, and it's funny that you saw that firsthand because what I hate the most is when you have those threads that just go on forever and you're trying to catch up and get context from each email. And I think that's where like the eternal comment section that we have is great. That's when being able to assign emails to a specific person is great and kind of gives you peace of mind knowing that like it's been taken care And so more email equals more distraction equals more stress, and this can go on forever. Loss of revenue, unhappiness with your employees and with your customers. And from our research, we have some stats here. 68% of people said the number of emails they've sent and received has risen over the last 3 years. And then 70% of people who reported that their work is very stressful have seen the amount of email increase in the past year. So you can see how this is correlated, right? Like more email, we're getting more email despite all the talk about email is dead. That's not the case, especially in the logistics industry. Email is the backbone of almost most businesses today around the world. And so we can't avoid this fact. And this increased amount of email is leading to stress. And I think the worst thing is when you feel like you're under a pile, or a mountain of email or tasks or work, it makes things very difficult to prioritize, to figure out what you need immediate attention, what you can wait. And I think being able to have the right tool, the right tech stack, so you can filter this out, so your team is spending less time worrying about the email or if somebody responded to certain things, and more time actually with their customers, with the emails or the conversations that matter the most. And so at the end of the day, when we talk to companies, whether it's logistics companies or any other companies, your inbox can't keep up with the demand. If you're using Gmail, if you're using Outlook, these tools actually haven't really changed in 20 or so years. There's definitely new additions made every year or so, but at its core it's the same. And these experiences actually have been built for the consumer and the business almost equally, right? We don't have like a great Gmail for business or Outlook for business experience. And that's why your email isn't basically set up yet or has the right feature set to handle the current way that we work, especially if 68% of people are seeing their emails increasing and we haven't really created the right tools to help them manage that. You're seeing why this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. So some notes here: personal inboxes just give your business multiple points of failure. Critical conversations stop and important information gets trapped. There's no way to track every message from start to finish. And every person is a bottleneck in your process. So I think that's the big key right here, that you're creating so many bottlenecks and your business is kind of being put to a halt. Back to distribution lists. This is one of the core things this is how Front started. It's what we really solve for in it. And they lack visibility and leave you open to errors. And back, again, to the visibility aspect of this thing.
This is a key criteria when choosing this kind of solution, because what I see is that when there is an issue, for example, on the delivery, to come back to the transportation industry, you just get panicked and you just put a lot of people in the loop, and you forward the email to a lot of people and you say, okay, who has the answer to that? So the fact of having someone accountable, so you can just say you're going to be the one accountable to answer these customers is really important. Otherwise, you just end up in a thread with 15 people in the thread and you don't know what you have to do, and you just close the thread and you go to something else, and then you were the person accountable for it. So that's
exactly.
That's really a key topic.
No, and I 100% agree. When you have so many people on a thread, it's oftentimes no one's stepping up and saying, okay, I'm going to do this. Maybe you don't have the appropriate way to do it. And I think with assignments in Front, you could actually click a button, assign it to a specific person. It gets it out of your inbox, and you can kind of move on. And you can actually tag yourself still in the email, so you could follow the interactions if you want to. And obviously, privacy and security is a big issue. So this is only done if the original email owner gives you access. But this is a way for a lot of people to keep track of the conversations that they want to without having to be involved in the thread. They can mute the discussion and archive it and not worry anymore about having to deal with it. High risk of delayed reply, something that I've talked a lot about. And just email overload in general. So shared inboxes and Outlook are just not a single source of truth. And I think when I think about Shippeo, when I think about Front, it's all about having a single source of truth, right? You have whether it's emails or any sort of communication coming from all sorts of channels or data coming from all sorts of like tools, you want one place where your team can go and access this information. Just shared inbox and Outlook are difficult to quickly triage emails and assign them to the right person. So something that I mentioned there again with Front, the ability to just quickly assign an email. And then if a person deletes it, it's gone forever, right? You could, like I said, you could archive the email, and then if you're involved in that email, if you're tagged on it, if you're mentioned on it, you could always go back and find it. And so, in general, there's no insight into what's happening in your inbox. There's just a lack of visibility. And then this is another thing. One thing that we think a lot about is context switching at Front, like moving from one context to another, right? And today with Slack, with email, with chat, with all sorts of communication methods for your customers or your teams to contact you, you end up constantly moving from one thing to another. 70% of those who said work is stressful strongly agreed that constant interruptions make us less happy. And 1/3 of people said that their work is interrupted 10 or more times each day. Actually, our CEO, Mathilde, she preaches a lot about how you should, even whether it's on like PTO or on like the weekends, she deletes her email app, she deletes, the things that are making her distracted so she can focus. And I think that's the key right now is, in today's world, technology has empowered us, but it's also made things a lot more complicated and added a lot of distractions, and this is really slowing us down. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is unifying communications. And I think I kind of touch on this, and again, going back to the idea of Shippeo and Front and being able to unify your data or your communications. So with Front, we have 40 integrations, 40 plus integrations and counting. And you can integrate your text, so with the Twilio API, you could have your text messages coming to your Front inbox. You could integrate with your chat, so we integrate with Drift, with Intercom, with other chat tools. And just this week, we launched a WhatsApp integration. So if you're using WhatsApp for your business, you could also integrate that. So you could have all of your conversations. And also social, I forgot to mention Twitter, Facebook. So you could have your Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, Twilio phone number, email, all within one platform. You could use the same sort of feature set that I mentioned, where you could assign these to specific people. You could create roles, create tags. And I think that's just another, I think this specifically kind of unites this webinar because unifying your communications or your data, whether it's with Front, with Shippeo, is really the best way for you to have visibility and have the single source of truth. Cool. And that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It's time for Q&A. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask those right now. It looks like we do have one question just coming right here. How can I share visibility information to my customers through other systems than just a visibility platform? So I think this could be for you.
No, that's a good question, because usually our customers are already using some customer service tools or customer support tools or email notification platform, etc. So usually they want our information to go into another system so they can run our customers. They don't have to use our platform or our UX. So, for example, we are working on some CRM integrations to make sure that the customer support team can access the delivery information that we have in Shippeo into a CRM. So that's a cool feature that we are working on right now. So integrations through CRM system. Some of our customers are already using their customer visibility platform. So they have a platform where the customer can type the delivery information number, etc., that has been developed by our customers. So we have some APIs to plug to the system, so they don't have to connect to Shippeo. They can use their own branded portal to make sure that they have the information correctly displayed to their customers.
Nice, that's awesome. We have another question. Does Front connect with Outlook? Do you need Outlook and Front? Yeah, this is a common question that we get, whether it's with Outlook or with Gmail. You use Front on top of Outlook and Gmail, so we don't provide the email address. We're the platform, we're the UI. You use Front to interface and communicate, but you still have your Gmail account, you still have your Outlook account. You can always go back. We have a two-way sync with those platforms, but once you're on Front, you're probably going to do everything in Front because there's certain things that Gmail and Outlook do not have, such as the assignment feature, such as the tagging feature, and so those things are not going to translate into Outlook and Gmail just because they don't have those features. But every other email and sent and received will be translated from both systems, and yeah, you'll use both tools basically. You'll use your Outlook and Gmail for your email service, and then you'll use Front to really manage the communications.
One question for you: when you work with 3PL at Front,
yeah,
I guess it's also a nice way for you to promote Front to the customers of the 3PL.
Yeah.
Have you had any cases where you have the 3PL using Front and the customer also using Front and then interacting with the same tool? Or?
Yeah, I think we do have a few of those cases, and it's increasing more and more. And it's actually funny that you mentioned that because it's ways we get our referrals too, because the customer, yeah, yeah, the customer is looking for a solution, and once like the 3PL is using Front, right, I think the customer is able to see the difference in the experience on their end, and then they want to have that same sort of experience, and that's how we're getting a ton of customers.
I mean, it's kind of the same for us when we have like a 3PL sharing the information to a shipper through Shippeo portal.
Yeah.
And the shippers just asking what is
what is this? Yeah.
So we get a lot of referrals also from our existing customers to new customers.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it's awesome when you can have like the tools being used both by the vendor and the customer, the same tool, and then I think it's a testament to how great the tool is.
Right.
Great. I think unless you have any final comments or anything.
No, I mean that's pretty cool. I was super happy to participate to the webinar because when you first talked to me about it, I knew Front before, of course, and for me, I didn't know that you had a lot of logistics activity with 3PL customer.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense like to combine the two because, I mean, as you say, one is about visibility of the data, the other is about visibility of our emails and information.
Yes.
So it really makes sense to combine both. And I'm sure we'll discuss that on a product perspective also. So.
Yeah, no, thank you for having. I will happily come to Paris anytime to do this live. And yeah, I think the same for us. Once we learned about each other, it was just like, oh, this is Front for data and for tracking, and and we're the Shippeo for email or for communications, and so I think we are solving a very similar problem, but for different sort of use cases. But I think that problem is the same for 3PLs that they're seeing. It's just the lack of visibility and being able to unify the data, the communications, and then provide just customer experience. Great. Thank you all for attending. If you have any more questions, want to contact sales team, want to demo, or just want to say hi, here are email addresses. We'll follow up with the recording, and then if you'd like, we'll also send you some more invites to future events that we do together. But thanks again, Shin, and
thank you.
Yep, and thank you all for attending today.